Hello everyone and welcome to Toon Runes, the show that overanalyzes cartoons both old and new to give you the answers to questions you've always asked. This is the first episode of Toon Runes. For the first episode on this channel, we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, Steven Universe. Now before we get started, I just wanted to say that this lion theory isn't going to be like the others you've seen before. I've tried to look at this differently and tried doing some research to compare the anomaly of lion to things that occur in real life. And as some of you may know, I am an environmental scientist, so I already have a lot of prior knowledge regarding these sort of things. Anyways, with that being said, let's move on to the theory. We all know Lion. He's Steven's companion, pet, adorable fluffball, and part-time computer destroyer.
Wait, Lion, be careful! Lion, no!
What we don't know about this mysterious feline, however, is who or what he is. There's been a lot of speculations and theories surrounding him since his debut in Steven's Lion. They vary from him being the remains of Pink Diamond to being what's left of Rose Quartz. And I'm not saying that these are wrong, as they are entirely possible, but what if Lion was just a lion? Or rather, what if he at least started out that way? In the real world, it's not uncommon for organisms to change their shape. In fact, it's a rather common phenomenon. As Rose stated, one of the things that she's loved the most about Earth is that it's constantly changing. And she's right, it is. People can change their appearance by dyeing their hair, insects can change their metamorphosis, animals can change their shape and appearances rather drastically just by growing older. However, there is a way that changes happen that can be unwanted and unexpected.
It's corruption.
The changes that I'm talking about, of course, are mutations. We've all heard that word before, whether it be from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or from a basic level science class in junior high. But what most people don't realize is that mutations happen in every single one of us every single day, and they don't necessarily affect you, at least not directly. Now, I'm not going to go past the basics, but I will briefly explain this process. Most mutations occur naturally when your DNA is being replicated and there's an error that goes unchecked and unfixed by an enzyme called helicase. When this happens, the sequence that the DNA is coding for changes, and it may end up coding for an entirely new protein. This change in protein can cause either no change at all, a neutral change, a positive change, or a negative change. What change happens depends entirely on what portion of sequence is changed and to what. There are, of course, ways that mutations can be made so that they happen more often, which yes, that includes exposure to toxic substances such as slime, but that's not what we'll be focusing on today. The way that I can best explain this is by using cancer as an example. Cancer is caused by a mutation. This happens when your cell's instructions aren't coded for properly and they don't know when to stop growing. Which is why cancer cells are basically portrayed as big blobs or bulges. They're just cells that don't know when to stop growing. Which is why your parents are always nagging you to put sunscreen on before going outside, because you'll get skin cancer. And they're not wrong. In fact, a whopping 86% of skin cancer cases are due to prolonged exposure of ultraviolet light, which does in fact come from the sun. Now, mutations caused from ultraviolet light aren't just exclusive to cancer. They can also cause mutations to germ cells, which are the cells that babies come from. This can later cause birth defects and can range from severe to unnoticeable. Anyways, back to Lion. It's time to connect the dots now that I've explained the basics of mutations to you. Now, you're probably wondering at this point why I've been getting into all of this technical science-related material, and at this point I would be too. After all, what do ultraviolet lights have to do with Steven Universe? Well, if you've been paying attention to the show, you would know one very important key element to the gems, and that's that they're made of light, which has been stated by Pearl and the other gems many other times throughout the course of the show.
Our bodies are made of light, and usually they form a mass dependent on the air pressure and the level of gravity in the environment.
The gems are beings that are made from light. The only truly physical part of them is their gemstone. Everything else that you see is an illusion. Some gems, such as Rose Quartz, have also been known to manipulate Earth life to change it into something completely different. Sounds like there's some mutations going on here, right? What if Rose Quartz summoning a plant army isn't magic, but rather nothing more than ultraviolet rays irradiating these organisms and causing their cells to mutate? Obviously at a much more dramatic rate than any human-known radiation would cause. But we also need to remember that we're talking about aliens literally made from light here. There are plenty more examples of beings that could have been affected by this radiation that we've seen already. Some examples would be the watermelon Stevens, Rose's moss, Pumpkin, the giant strawberries in the strawberry battlefield, the mysterious lizard that Lion is seen eating, and of course, Lion himself. Now, I'm just gonna go on and say this before I get this anywhere in the comments section. The lizard that Lion was eating was in no way a gem. It had a skeletal structure, and it was clearly dead. Lion was eating it. If it were a gem, it would have poofed. That being said, however, it definitely wasn't any type of normal Earth animal that we would see on today's Earth. At least not one that we would consider to be normal. However, it is entirely possible that it's a strain of species that had mutated over thousands of years ago because of the gems. There's one case off the top of my head that I think could cause this. But not just to the lizard, it could cause it to a very wide variety of animals. A case where radiation would have reached miles and miles away, affecting a very, very high number of the Earth fauna and flora as well. What I'm referring to, of course, is the damage of the diamonds, which is always portrayed as a light. To be more specific, it's portrayed as a white, yellow, and blue light. Why else would the battlefield where it happened be covered in giant, mutant strawberries? If you think about these things with this theory in mind, it all suddenly makes a lot more sense. Mutant moss trying to kill Lars and the cool kids, a living pumpkin that acts like a dog living with those hippie lesbians in the DeMeo barn, a giant pink lion that can teleport with the sound of his roars. You know, just average everyday stuff for Steven and the Gems. That does beg the question though, why lion? Well, I think it's a lot simpler than people care to admit. We already saw that Rose has a thing for lions in Buddy's book. The reason as to why I think she chose him, however, who knows? I personally believe it was because she was close to a lion around the time that she knew she was going to have Steven. She probably figured that he needed a companion, and so she made Lion. And by made, I mean she caused him to mutate into the pink feline we know today. There was also a theory going around that Rose, being the kindred spirit she is, healed one of her lion friends when he was sick and dying. She later decided to entrust him with Steven. I think that both of these things are very plausible. But in all seriousness, this theory kind of makes the show a bit darker, doesn't it? Not only do we have the gems decimating the health of the Earth to make more of themselves, but they've also altered the life around them and turned them into mutants. Maybe that's how the diamonds even got the idea for corruption, but who knows? So I think in Lion's case, if this is mutation, it wasn't really a bad thing. In fact, I would say it's rather positive. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a lion that has an alternate dimension in the remain? And even if it is mutation, can you imagine what type of altercations that has? For example, Lion's concept art would make a lot more sense if he actually was mutated. Just saying. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Why do you think Rose made Lion? Do you think it's possible that he and the other life forms are mutants? I'd like to see your thoughts. And of course, I do also hope that you enjoyed our first episode. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. There will be more content like this coming at you really soon, so I'll see you then.